Here in our world of inflation, debt, and endless financial pressure, it really can feel impossible to get ahead. It's either you're forced to overspend just to keep up, or you have to go without those things that you want or need. In my life, there has been one huge mindset shift that I've made, which has saved me thousands of dollars over the years without sacrificing my lifestyle. I'm not settling for anything, I'm not really going without. I have the same quality of life as those around me, and in fact, I feel that my life is richer as a result. And if I'm gonna boil that mindset shift down to one single word, that word would be secondhand. But first, if you don't know me, I'm Spencer, and I like to talk about simple living, frugality, and digital minimalism. Today, I want to talk about how buying stuff secondhand has been one of the most powerful financial tools I've used in my life. I'll talk about how it's not about sacrifice or deprivation. It is truly a strategy, and it is a strategy that's not only going to save you money in your wallet, but it'll better align with your values, I think. And honestly, folks, this mindset shift of switching to a secondhand universe, it really changed everything for me. So let's get into it. Now, buying stuff secondhand is something I've been doing for well over a decade now, but I want to talk about this in terms of like an overarching theory that can really tie all this together. And for that, I want to reference a favorite book of mine, Early Retirement Extreme. Now, Early Retirement Extreme isn't just a finance book about retiring early, it is really a manual for living. Jacob Lundfisker, the author of Early Retirement Extreme, also ran a blog by the same name, and his blog has been a huge inspiration in my life. Jacob's lived on 7,000 US dollars a year for the last 20 or something years, and he knows a lot about living well without depriving yourself. There's a lot of great posts on Early Retirement Extreme, and I'll link them in the description if you want to check them out. But one of my favorite ideas from this blog is the fact that if you want to live on a quarter of what the average person is doing, then you need to spend a quarter of what the average person is spending. And if you're able to do that, cut down your spending to a quarter of what the average person spends, then you only need to work a quarter of what the average person works to earn that money. When you look at it that way, the math is quite simple, but the part that really catches people up is when they think, if I'm going to spend a quarter of what everybody around me is spending, then I'm going to be depriving myself in a lot of ways. I'm going to be sacrificing a lot. Throughout the blog, Jacob assures us that he is in fact not depriving himself and is living a pretty lavish life in his early retirement. The key here to spending a quarter of what the average person's spending isn't going without these things, but it's finding a way to meet those needs more efficiently. An example that Jacob gives is that rather than just picking a recipe for a meal you want to make, and going to the grocery store and buying all of those ingredients off of the recipe list, he says, go to the grocery store, see what produce, for example, is on sale, and then use that as the basis for what you're going to cook. Especially with loss leader items that you're going to see in these flyers for grocery stores, stuff that is really meant to get you in the door because of how steep they're discounted, those types of things might be 75% discounted to what the average produce is. If you're eating that as your main staples, then you're going to be eating at 75% less than what the average person is spending. And in my experience, this same logic applies to buying stuff secondhand. I'm able to have all of the same categories of stuff as any person that I know has, but I'm paying much less for each item. Now, it might not always be a 75% discount if you're buying stuff secondhand, but through my experience, I've been able to get very high quality stuff, lightly used in almost new condition if I look hard enough, and paying at least 30 to 50% off of retail. Whether it's 30 or 50 or 75% off, you're saving a huge amount of money over the person who's buying new, and that gives you a huge edge. No longer do you necessarily have to work in that high stress job that you don't even like doing. You can go and look for something that pays a little bit less because you need to earn a little bit less. Or maybe now that your needs cost a little bit less, you can afford to take that vacation time you wanted. You have time to live. Because it's important to remember that our money is our life energy. We exchange our life energy with our employers. We give our time to those jobs to earn the money that we get. And if we spend it frivolously, then we have to exchange more of our life energy to get more money so we can spend it frivolously again. So with all of the expenses we have in the world, buying more of your stuff secondhand allows you to cut some of the heads off of that hydra, and you can get back to living rather than spending your whole time making a living. I'll give a few examples in my own life of how that really adds up, starting with one of the biggest expense categories for most people, and that is a car. In the USA, the average monthly car payment for a new vehicle is $745. With used vehicles, it's not much better at $521 a month. And because people never seem to stop paying their cars off, as soon as they're done paying it off, they get a new one. This is almost a perpetual cost that you're going to have for the rest of your life. So just blowing that up, 12 months a year, 10 years worth, 120 months of making that $745 car payment, you're going to spend 89,000 US dollars over a decade on just just owning a car. And that's not even including things like insurance or gas or maintenance. In Canada, that would be over $100,000 per decade, and that is not how I want to spend my money. A friend of mine who I work with in the film industry, we're the same age and we pretty much have the same role. He bought a Toyota Corolla in 2020, I believe. He paid around $25,000 or $30,000 for this car and he financed it for 7 years. And here in 2025, he still has that $500 car payment that he makes every month just to own the thing. Meanwhile, I drive a 2008 Toyota RAV4 that I bought for $6,000. It doesn't have a touchscreen inside, it doesn't have Bluetooth, it certainly wasn't as shiny. I think it had around 180,000 kilometers on it when I first bought it. But in the time that I've had this car, I haven't had to do any sort of crazy repairs. It's just been oil changes and regular maintenance. But whereas my friend has been paying $6,000 a year to own his car and he's been doing it for years and years, I paid that amount once and I have my car for as long as I want to keep it. And honestly, folks, this doesn't just have to be for big ticket items like cars. This applies to everything you own. For example, with pretty well all of the computers I bought in my adult life, I bought them all secondhand and I've saved 50% on each of them minimum. And I'm a video editor, so I need a higher power computer than the average person. If you're just using your computer for browsing the internet, watching YouTube, checking emails, you can get away with a much cheaper computer. You could probably save 90% on a computer over the new price. Sticking with computers for another minute as an example, a friend of mine got a really high-end MacBook recently as an editing laptop. This thing was like an M3 or M4 Max chip. They spec'd out the RAM and they spec'd out the hard drive almost as high as it could go. I think they spent over $5,000 on this computer. Pretty close to what I spent on my car for reference. Now, because I have this YouTube channel, I actually do more editing than this person does, and I needed a new computer last year as well. But rather than going to Apple's website and getting jammed up on all the RAM and hard drive upgrades, I went to Facebook Marketplace instead. On there, I found hundreds of Macs for sale, many from people who are just trying to keep up with the Joneses and get the newest, highest spec machine. And I was able to get a very lightly used MacBook M1 Pro, 32 gigs of RAM, 512 gig hard drive, editing machine, and I only paid a little over $1,000 for that, and I got the guy to write me a receipt. And that's how you do it in business, folks. With all of these examples you're going to see with my MacBook and my car even, they weren't the newest models that I got. My car is a 2008, it's 15 years old. My MacBook, I guess that's from 2021. But just because the Joneses have to get the new model, it doesn't mean that you have to. These older machines are still perfectly adequate, even though businesses want you to believe otherwise and upgrade. A lot of consumers get duped that way and pay full price for the newest thing, but you don't have to, and you can save big. Another example is with camera equipment. I recently picked up this Panasonic Lumix GH6 as a second camera for my kit. The GH5 series was a very popular camera for Panasonic. The GH6 not so much so. They've also came out with the GH7, which is getting a little bit more hype, and everybody loves that one because of the updated autofocus. This camera was a little bit more of a disappointment when it came out because it didn't have that autofocus feature, but everything else that's in this camera was carried over to the GH7 and is considered cutting edge. The GH7 is $3,000, and when this camera came out in 2021, it was also around that price. I got this thing with only 60 shots ever taken on it. I believe the exact number was 68, and I paid 1,200 Canadian dollars for this. And that's just proof that if you look for things on the secondhand market, you're often going to find older models that people no longer want. The thing that was the best possible thing at the time, even 3 or 4 years ago, can become something that people say, don't bother with that thing. That thing's old junk. Clearly the marketing has succeeded on those people, but it doesn't have to succeed on you. If you can get past that messaging, look clearly at these things and realize this is more than enough for me. It would have been a dream for me to own this a couple years ago, and to get it now at this price, that's even better. If you are able to overcome that programming of our consumer system, you will save thousands of dollars. Because I've never had to buy that car, for example, I've saved thousands of dollars every year. I save 30 to 50 to 60% on my laptops and my camera equipment, things that I use for work and that actually make me money as tools as well. I'm saving money in all of these categories, but in many cases, I'm making money on these things too, and I'm making money faster because my investment is much smaller. So if you want to start living this way and start saving a lot of money by buying secondhand, you need to stop comparing with what your neighbors have and trying to keep up with the Joneses, and instead just try to match categories. What I mean is you may not have all of the best name brands in your closet or the newest items from those brands, but you will have clothes in your closet. And no, you may not have the M4 Max chip computer, but you have a perfectly adequate computer that does all of the work that you need it to do. And more importantly, folks, you've saved 30 to 50 to 75% in doing so, and that is 30 to 50 to 75% less money you need to go and earn, or more money that you can save. Ultimately, folks, the power that this unlocks is you have more money in your bank account and more freedom that you can choose how to spend your time. I'm a freelancer, so I largely get to choose my hours in a sense that I get to pick which jobs I take and which ones I don't. If I bought everything new and I had tons of overhead that I had to pay for, tons of new things that were quite expensive that I had to go out and earn money to buy, I'd have to work a lot more than I do now, and I'd have a lot less flexibility that I do in my career. I probably wouldn't be able to do things like this YouTube channel, which doesn't really make me a lot of money at this point. I'd have to go out and do a standard job that I maybe don't enjoy as much just so I can make that cheddar. And that's exactly where buying stuff secondhand has really been a superpower for me, folks, because in all of my categories, I'm saving huge amounts of money and I don't nearly need to go and work the same to earn it. And once again, folks, it doesn't have to be deprivation. It just has to be being more efficient. If you want high quality, name brand stuff, you can still get all of those things just by being a little bit smarter with how you get them. My camera is a Sony, my other one's a Panasonic, my computer is a Mac, I have Red Wing boots, I have a Filson coat, but I bought all of those for less than 50% of the new cost. And not to harp on the car payment again, but I've bought all of this stuff I mentioned for less than that one person's car payment. So remember, folks, frugality does not have to be about deprivation. It is about buying things that are meaningful to you, buy things that you really value, and buy them efficiently. By saving on car payments and all of the high-end electronics that I use in my work and my hobbies, I estimate that I've saved over 100 grand in the last 10 years. And if you don't need tools for work and have less expensive hobbies, you could save even more. It really is a superpower, folks. This one mindset shift by thinking, I'm not going to go to the mall, I'm going to go to the thrift store, or rather than signing into Amazon, I'm going to go on Facebook Marketplace and see if I can get that thing there first. Just by making that one mindset shift, you are going to unlock a world of savings and you're going to free up a lot of your time. I hope you found this video interesting, folks. I really think you need to take a look in the secondhand universe, because once you can make that shift, that your entire thoughts go to secondhand first, I'm not looking at the brand new, I'm looking at the efficient secondhand option, a whole world opens up to you. It really does. And it's a much cheaper world to live in. It's a low budget universe. Thank you very much for watching. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What types of things are you buying secondhand? What types of deals are you finding on the used market? Let me know in the comments section. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.